Go live on our YouTube channel as well as our Facebook pages this morning and talk with Brad Reed that is live in the studio. Let's make sure we're all good to go there. Yes, we are. Brad, good morning to you, and thanks for hanging out with us this morning.
Thanks for having me. This is exciting.
Yeah, I think it's cool. Now, just to give you a little bit of background, you have, in this particular eclipse, this is like 100 years between these eclipses, right? But there are other eclipses that happen, and you've had a chance to photograph some of those in the past. Take us through some of that past experience.
The first one I photographed was the big one in 2017, and Rachel and I drove up to Frankfurt. We were doing a book for West Shore Bank, and we photographed off the pier up there, and my dad went down to Muskegon and shot off the pier down there, and we all got some really cool shots. I think we were at 96% of totality, which would be about what we get this time as well in this area.
And how would you describe that? What is it? Really dark out? Can you see it a lot? How did you see that?
Unfortunately, up in this area, totality didn't seem that much different than the rest of the eclipse. It didn't get much darker. It might have got a little bit more calm. The clouds may have dissipated a little bit more, but it wasn't like what my cousin Ryan experienced down in Ohio shooting totality. He got the diamond ring photograph. And,
cool.
He said the animals got really quiet. He was out in a farmer's farm field with cows, and he said it was so cool to see a sunset in all directions. It looked like middle of the day, but it kind of turned a pinky purple hue in all directions.
Wow.
So he and I are traveling south this time. We're going to shoot it together.
Okay. All right. And we'll probably see quite a few people make that way. You can go to almost the corner of Michigan, will be slightly that edge, but really you want to go almost past Toledo or into the Ohio range. That would be kind of the diagonal closest range. Is that kind of where you're headed, or a different spot?
Yeah, we're going to head down towards Cleveland and that area. And we're debating if we want to shoot in the city and get some kind of cool cityscape, or if we want to be out in the country. And a lot of that may depend on the clouds and the weather too. And
for sure, and we might be completely disappointed, and we've got cloud coverage and some weather they're reporting that might come through. But that brings up my next question: is from photographing an eclipse like this, is it better? We talk about like different star patterns and such when it's nice and dark in the country versus any sort of light that's coming from a city. Does that factor into a lot of things when it comes to trying to shoot that perfect photo?
For the eclipse, it shouldn't matter. Definitely during our normal landscape photography, we always say clouds are your friends, which ironically in this case, clouds are not going to be our friends. We want it as clear as absolutely possible. But the cool thing with the eclipse is anywhere in the country, you're going to be able to see at least partial coverage. And so everybody of all ages should be able to experience it as long as you have the protective eyewear on.
Okay. And we're going to chat about that as well here in this segment, because we want to make sure that safety is first in regards to this. But let's break this down a little bit. Time-wise, where you expect for those that are not traveling, for it to start, for it to peak, for it to wrap up. You've been doing some studying on that, right?
According to one website I found, 1:55 p.m. in the Ludington area will be the start, and then 3:10 will be maximum coverage, and then 4:23 it'll end. So it's more than a couple hour span of time to experience this and hopefully document it. And you can use your cell phone or a more fancy camera.
And where you're going to be when it comes to the totality side of it, it's going to be only 2.5 to 4 minutes in regards to that. How do you get that perfect shot when you've got that little time?
My main objective is I want to get the diamond ring, which happens right at the beginning of totality and right at the end of totality. So it's about a 4-minute span, and the first one is harder to get because you don't exactly know when it's going to happen.
Yeah.
And I heard that there's apps that you can buy and download, and it will use your location, and it will tell you the important things that are happening. So I may spend the money and get that app so that I don't miss it. But hopefully we'll definitely get the diamond ring at the end of totality, and then get the shot with it perfectly covered where you can see the whole corona as well.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And to think about our phones, like I have the Samsung 23 there, which can do 100 times zoom. Do you recommend us using our cell phones if we want to try to capture this? And if so, I would assume without the protective eyewear, we want to just have that phone out there pointed at it and not necessarily looking through that phone or looking with that phone and upwards towards the sun and the moon, right?
From what I've read on the internet, if you're going to use your phone, you still want to try to buy the Mylar covers that you can order on Amazon or find other places. They're getting harder and harder to find because everyone's buying them. But I read that even if you don't have that, you can ruin your phone or damage your phone and hurt your eyes. So, and it's definitely the case with a big camera because you're magnifying so much, you can melt your sensor and all these crazy things. So during actual totality, you can take the glasses off or your protective stuff off your camera, but the whole rest of the time, so almost the entire duration of this, you have to have protection on your eyes and whatever camera you're using.
Yeah, very good point. And I don't think many people understand that, there's light coming in just as much as you want that light, to capture that light in that photo. But too much light can affect these devices, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. If you're just joining us, we're talking with Brad Reed from Todd and Brad Reed Photography this morning. The Eclipse happening on Monday, April 8th. So getting ready for that. You can also make some of those boxes, right? I know that some of the school kids will do that to capture the eclipse and look at it. What's your thoughts on that? And I think you ordered one, right?
I ordered one off of Amazon for the front of my big telephoto lens, and I think it was $12. I ordered it a few months ago. I ordered one for my dad and Rachel and I so that we were sure to get them before they were sold out. Hopefully you can still get them if you haven't ordered, but I'd order today if you are looking to do that.
Okay. All right. Now, just before we wrap up, diving into the science of things. So with your cell phone, do you think that we have to go into like any sort of manual modes or pro mode or anything like that when it comes to capturing these photos? And then the same idea when it comes to like the DSLR cameras, is there any recommendations that you would throw out there?
Well, with your cell phones, and I didn't even realize this, my Uncle Rod helped me with this last month, but your cell phone comes out of the box on the lowest camera setting. So I have the 15 Pro Max, which is Apple's best camera, and it comes out of the box at a really low megapixel. So you have to go in and manually change that, and then you can change it all the way to shooting RAW, and it shoots a shockingly large file when you do that, and with great quality, but they don't come that way. So get on YouTube or figure out, or get a young person to help you figure out how to change your camera settings on your cell phone to set it to the highest resolution, and that alone will greatly help you with your photography of this eclipse.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially since most of us are connected to the cloud, so we can just dump those to the cloud rather than filling up our phone and such. But being able to shoot that RAW file or just about to that highest resolution, that makes sense as well. What about when it comes to like, because it's moving slowly, but should we be in sports mode or any other mode that you would recommend?
On a digital SLR, I still recommend shooting in full manual mode. I'd put your ISO during most of the eclipse around 400 ISO. During totality, if you're down south, you can lower that to 100 ISO to get better quality. And then, again, during it, your shutter speed should be at least a 500th of a second. And then during totality, it can go down all the way to a half a second.
Okay.
So for that 4 or 5 minutes, you can change your settings. But for the rest of it, you need to freeze that moon. And the moon and the sun move very fast.
Yeah.
And so a 500th of a second or faster. So a 500th, a 750th, a 1000th, anywhere in there, you're going to be safe. And then use your aperture to get your exposure. So depending on what filter you have on, you might be able to shoot at f8. You may have to open your lens to f5.6, but the sweet spot is f8 to f11.
All right, and definitely for something like this, you want to have a monopole or a tripod, right?
Yeah, definitely a tripod, and you're going to want a manual focus. Even the most expensive cameras are going to really struggle on autofocus, and your cell phone's going to struggle to focus. Focus will be the hardest thing for most people.
Yeah. Is there any, and I know this is going to be tough, but is there any way we can practice before this? And if so, how would we do that?
So during my photography class that I teach out at West Shore, we had a field trip yesterday down to the city beach, and we all spread out and did our own thing. And my goal was to practice. Unfortunately, we didn't have the sun yesterday. So what I did was I put my big telephoto lens on, and I practiced photographing moving birds and seagulls.
Okay.
And staying on target and getting them in the viewfinder, finding them, getting them sharp. And it just honing those skills and getting back in the practice. So if the sun ever shows back up in Michigan, we can ideally practice on getting the sun sharp. And even without the eclipse, when you take a big lens and aim it at the sun, I recommend I wear my sunglasses when I'm doing that because it's so bright it hurts your eyes.
Absolutely. And there is, at this point, I mean, you might be able to find it on Amazon and others to be able to get those protective sunglasses for watching the eclipse. Anything that we forgot to talk about that would be recommended when it comes to photograph or even videoing this eclipse coming up?
I think it's just a great family experience. So if you can get a elder parent or grandparent out to experience this, they may have never done that, or a young kid, and inspire them to get into physics and astronomy and all of those things. So I just hope it can be a fun family experience for everyone.
Good point. And again, be safe. The vision you want to last for a lifetime as much as possible. But and then you are planning on being out. I would assume your kids in your class, they're excited to take part in this as well.
So my class is every Monday and Wednesday afternoon. So back in Christmas time when I wrote my syllabus for this semester, I purposely gave this day off.
Yeah.
So Monday, their objective is all to shoot a photo, because for their final, they have to have 20 different images, and one of them has to be a natural phenomenon. So I gave them the day off so that they can try to shoot, and it happens during our class period time.
That's cool.
So I'm hoping that my students get out there and at least give it an effort.
Yeah.
They don't get graded on the quality of the image, they get graded on an effort.
There you go. That's the way it should be. It starts just after 1 o'clock this coming Monday. Wraps up, or the peak is about 3 o'clock, 3:10, 3:11,
3:10,
right there.
somewhere in there.
Yep, and then you'll start seeing it fade out. And really, it's a southwest look. That's where we're going to have to be. So even being at the beach in this particular case, is that an okay spot to be in if we're trying to? I guess so, because the sun's going to be pretty much, it's still be in the southwest a little bit, right?
Yeah, shooting off the piers like we did in 2017 worked really well. A huge yacht came motoring by, and he never slowed down. So Rachel and I actually almost got swept off the Frankfurt Pier. It totally drowned our camera bags, and I had to call the Coast Guard on the guy. So yeah, it was bad. But other than that, the piers were a great place to watch them.
Okay, very cool. Well, we appreciate you stopping by to talk with us about this, and maybe there's some other things that we can photograph in the future we can chat about. But just having some of those settings on our cameras will help us kind of capture that moment. And by the way, hopefully, and I'm sure you will share the ring that diamond ring that you talked about. I'm pretty confident that you will capture that based on your experience, but
we're hoping.
It can be tough, can it? I mean, just to get that perfect shot or multiple shots, as you would. How many photos do you think you'll take when you're down there or an experience like this? What does that look like?
I tend to shoot like a sniper, so I shoot very little.
Okay.
But in this case, I'm probably going to shoot more than I normally do just because of the high degree of difficulty. We always tell every student, all our weekend workshop students and students out at West Shore, photographing the moon is the hardest thing we photograph.
Yeah.
Because it defies how you normally set your camera at nighttime, and it moves so fast. So you're shooting in the dark of a moving object.
Yeah.
So I'm probably going to be shooting more than I normally do just so I know I'm getting some sharp images.
All right, looking forward to it. All right, I can't wait to see what you snap and capture there. Brad Reed, thanks for hanging out with us this morning.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. It is now 9:40 on 102.7.